It's Rachelsey at the movies, yay!
Do it again, my eyes were weird, I think.
It's Rachelsey at the movies, yay!
We saw Edward Norton's new movie, Motherless Brooklyn, and I would describe this movie, first let me say, this is one of those, movies that, not a lot of people are going to go to the theater and see. But I listened to a podcast, and Edward Norton was the guest on it, and so I heard about it, and I was like, oh, that sounds interesting.
Okay, but tell him
And then it also got good reviews.
But I want you to tell him how you describe this movie.
Well, I kept describing it as an old-timey spy movie.
It's not a spy movie.
But it's an old-timey detective movie.
Yeah.
So this is a throwback to, what would we say?
Humphrey Bogart.
Yeah. And Edward Norton directed and is one of the stars in this movie. And he is a detective who's really good at what he does, but he has a mental illness, a condition.
It's got a condition.
Yeah, that we now know is Tourette's, but I guess during the time period this film is set in, they didn't know his character didn't know what it was called. So this movie is centered on that character, and he's part of a agency, Yeah. Private Eye.
Private Dicks.
Okay.
That's what they call. I will say that this movie is made in made in the way old movies were made, and that's not a bad thing. The peaceful serenity of an old movie.
Yeah.
And it's based on a novel. So Rachel, go wait or skip.
I'm gonna say wait on this movie. Here's the thing. I think it is a really good movie, but it was a little long. I don't know. I think this is a movie that you can enjoy, maybe in the comfort of your own home. And yeah, I also have to say this. As a common fan, right?
Commoner. She's a commoner.
I don't know that my opinion is that you wouldn't be missing anything from your life if you just didn't see this movie. But it is a really, it's a good movie and really well done, and I find it really interesting, and I'll talk more about that.
I'm going to say wait in this movie, too. I agree with you. That's a really good movie, and it was peaceful, and I enjoyed watching it. My biggest qualm with the movie is that it's one of those movies that works as it's going to be a big twist. And my experience was I knew part of that big twist right from the beginning. So it was too there to be seen by me. And it might be Ed Norton. It might be just because of Fight Club. I'll never let you trick me again. But anyway, but other than that, I still enjoyed watching it, even though I knew the whole time kind of some of the stuff that was going to happen. And it was a throwback. It's a throwback movie to a time of yesteryear. And I enjoyed going back there. And I love seeing the depiction of somebody with any kind of disorder. Like you said, this was Tourette's. And him being the main figure in the movie.
The story I make up is that the score for this movie, that you would experience that, in the way that, so even though you had, the twist figured out, that you still enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, really good score.
That's the story I make up about
Kelsey. And soundtrack.
Spoilers,
see? Listen here, see? Spoilers from a detective movie, see?
I was just about to say we didn't have any funny ways to say that, but then you did. This movie, like we said, was a throwback to an old style of movie, but what I liked about it was that, so the scene, the sets it was set in Brooklyn. They used rotary phones, they were walking down the street,
the Dodgers were still in Brooklyn, so it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
That's how long ago it was.
All the men wore suits and hats, and so it was set had that, and then the score, I said, I don't know, what is that instrument that plays and a detective, he's got his hat on and a cigar, and he's oh, I don't know what happened. He's narrating the movie. Edward Norton narrates the movie, so you have narration going on, but it's this, I don't even know what instrument that is playing.
It's a tambourine. It's not a tambourine.
You should know what it is.
Oh no, it's a harmonica?
I don't know what it is, but all that, right, very throwback to another time, movie making time, but all the characters, the way they interacted with one another was very modern. So I feel sometimes when I watch an old movie, I'm oh, that actor is playing I'm a detective character, and like he's very, and people, the way they interact with each other, it's like everything is just like moving you along to get to whatever the thing was. But I felt like in this movie, the characters had really thoughtful, heartfelt interactions with one another, and it seemed more natural. So it was interesting to take a movie that might have been made like in the, I don't know, 50s, 60s, and then but have like just be like people in it, real people. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the movie.
I thought Norton's performance was excellent, and I thought that it was cast really well. I had a lot of people in the movie, and I thought that the story was good, except that, like you, it did feel a little long eventually because it was much about city politics
Yeah.
from the 1940s
So like
or whatever.
I thought it was gonna be more. Like I thought, like if there was a twist, whatever. I was sitting through this kind of
there was more
lengthy movie, and I want to say when I looked at it, it was 2 hours and 42 minutes.
Was it?
I think I might be remembering wrong, but I think that's what I saw.
That's what it felt like. But
that when I was sitting there, I was like, the payoff for that length of time to me, I felt like it should have been more.
There was
instead it was about like a guy who was power hungry and like power drunk on like he had all these like committees that he was overseeing, and he made up like the borough authority, so he managed all this stuff because he had like this vision, and his vision just involved like getting poor people out of the way.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well I get that, but it's not really like
if you're gonna drag me into political machinations, it better be in like a space opera, like Episode 1 of Star Wars. You know what I mean? You better like have some Gungans in there or something. Otherwise, I'll just get bored. I got bored a little bit.
Yeah, it was a little like I was like, oh, like there was this woman involved, and it was like, oh, who is her father? It's not this guy or this guy. Now it's this guy, and it brought in a little bit about race relations, but I wasn't sure how accurate that was given like the time the movie was set in. I thought it went a little easy, like on, presenting that to make it more palatable for like a modern like audience. And I get that because you wanted all the characters to be included and you wanted this love interest to work. But it just made it like weird and kind of like, okay, well, yeah. Like, don't we all know that there are power drunk people involved in
everywhere,
like local politics, like in government?
Yeah, it was a good. It's better than we're talking about it now. Like it was a.
Well,
good
I'm saying
movie.
this just one thing. Yeah. Now let's talk about like I talked about how I liked how it was made. Edward Norton did an excellent job playing a character with. I don't know a lot about Tourette, so like if this movie was about like addiction or depression, I would have like more, but I really know very little about Tourette's. I don't know if it's considered a mental illness, but he did an excellent job of playing somebody with Tourette's. And let me say this, you might hear like, oh, detective with Tourette's, and you might think like it's a gimmick, but it wasn't a gimmick in the movie. It was part of the character and part of the story of how like he interacted with people, because it was difficult. Like when he gets anxious, like that's when and you imagine being a detective, that would be kind of problematic. It was hard for him to talk to people he didn't know.
Yeah.
It's hard for him to talk to women because like he's talking and he's trying to get information, and all of a sudden like he twitches and like says like crazy stuff, and they're like, some people like are like accept and as he is, other people are like, I'm out of here, So I thought like he did an excellent job playing that as somebody who really has it, and not as somebody where the character is used as a gimmick or as a sideshow or a comedic element. Like it wasn't any of that. It was very real, and I thought he did a good job with that.
Yeah. He also did a good job directing it. The only thing that, you didn't get the part about at the beginning of the movie that I saw. So it's not like it was.
Also, can we say that the key being in the hat like isn't a huge twist?
Well, it's not a twist, but like it was real apparent to me from the beginning that whatever they were looking for was in that guy's hat.
Okay,
and it was clear to me from the choices that he made as a director, because he had to have it in the movie. But I'm sure in the novel, it would have been better hidden, is what I'm saying. And there might have been a way to be able to do that in the movie, but it was really clear to me and so I don't think I think it could have been hidden better by the director.
Maybe, or maybe you just see these things because, like, for me, like
because I don't trust you, Ed.
I just watched
Tyler Durden,
like the movie, and just I don't know. Yeah,
it could be that.
The other good thing that I liked was the relationship between Edward Norton's character, whose name is Lionel. His Tourette's brain refers to himself as Bailey, and then his mentor would call him Motherless Brooklyn, because he and the other guys in this private eye agency all came out of an orphanage. So they all knew each other growing up. But the interesting to me was the relationship between him and this detective who was played by Bruce Willis. Very put together, very, like, you could just tell, like, he was the guy. Edward Norton's character, Lionel, like, just looked up to him so much. But he dies very early on in the movie, and it's kind of like the foundation for the whole, like, mystery to be unfolded through the rest of the movie. But he had to, it was kind of like I told you, a coming of age with an older person. That Edward Norton's character, Lionel, had to, like, figure out who he was. He didn't have this crutch of his mentor where he got to do, like, the stuff they needed in the private eye agency, like somebody to remember all this data and figure out these puzzles. Now he had to, like, go out there. He had to talk to people. He had to do all this stuff where he wasn't comfortable doing that before. So I thought I liked just the interplay of that without even having Bruce Willis in most of the movie, you know? And he just had to figure out who he was and have confidence in it and accept, like, his Tourette's as part of him and continue to move forward. Overall, this was a really good movie and really well done. Just, you know.
Watch it at home.
Wherever you are
Watch
watching
us at
this.
home.
Like, comment, and subscribe. Especially subscribe because it really helps the channel grow. And we really appreciate it. And thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.
So, yeah, this movie,
Okay, listen. You tell him, Rachel. Tell him what happens.
well, just be silent. It makes it a lot easier for me to edit.